is now visible. Please confirm that. Just say yes or give me the emoji sign. Oh, cool. Thank you. So this is an organization that usually practice a method where people come in and then they use their traditional method of writing their names in the books, and then they enter into the organization, they work, and when they are done, they come and fill a book, they come and fill the time out of the book, and then they leave. Perhaps everything they were doing here were manual, okay? And then it came a time, if anyone wants to leave, then the person meets the HR. Let's say this is a department, this is a department, perhaps this HR department, this can be finance, this can be legal, this can be, business development, as the case may be. Now, when this person or one person is resigning, the person comes to HR and they enter the name of the user into the leavers records, and then all the documents that this person is working on, they tend to be with the HR, depending on when they replace the person. And yes, they keep that record here, and then the people, when they sign in, they check in, when they check out here. Fine, right? But this organization now grew at a point, and they have to now adopt the computers to work. But right now, in the different units, they have different computers, and then they have the IT guys also available in this organization. So what they are doing is that these computers are just sitting independently in different units, right? So so that the the users here are two guys that are using these computers, and then this other department, you have one, two, three, four users here who are resuming in this department, and they're using these four computers. And then these other guys here too, they are guys that are also using these computers here to work. That means that the guys here who are from IT units, when a computer has an issue here, they would have to come, leave their department, come here and fix this laptop. And then if there's a problem here, also they'll come here to come and fix this laptop, as in helping them from desk to desk. And now, if there is need for this guy who is using this computer to exchange files with the guy that is using this computer, then this guy would have to either use flash drive or use a means of copying this file locally and then attach the drive to this other guy's laptop, and then before the files can be copied. And if they want to copy across department, the same thing happens, that they have to copy the file from here, they have to bring it here. And if they want to do anything like maybe push a company-wide help, desktop background or screensaver, then they have to copy the file to flash drive and be doing it on one machine around the whole environment. Now, we have turned from manual to a kind of digital solution in this organization. However, there is still a lot of manual work going on here. So this company now also emerged, and then they came up to say, okay, now that we have understood how it works, now we would like it that our IT guys would be able to, from their IT department up here, remotely remotely handle the issues that are happening in other units. So this is IT again, and then they should be able to handle the HR units issues. They should be able to handle the finance department issues. They should be able to handle the other business development unit issues from here. So what they will do is, okay, while these computers are in these different units, right? They have two of them here, then they have four of them here, like what we have said in the other one. Then they have two of them here in the HR unit, and then they also have three in their unit. So what they did, or what they would do, is to have like a server where all of these machines are going to be having identity at. What it means is that these machines are going to be identified inside is a central system where these machines will be known as per the name of the machine, and also that this place will house the owners, I mean, the users that you have in that environment. So as against you now knowing them here as per their name that they've entered into this book, and then even to the time that they entered and the time they are leaving. So what now happens here is that these users are going to be created inside of this place where their identity is going to be, so that from this computer, this server computer, you'll be able to make changes, make troubleshooting, or send um, packets to the other systems that you have. I mean, the laptops that you have within the systems or the computers you have within the system. So from here, you'll be able to administer. So what it just means is that all of these ones are connected here, and this becomes their central identity management solution, where whatever you want to do, you are just staying here in the IT unit. Even your own department also, you can from here administer their computers. Now, I'm not going to be stressing on how these computers were centrally managed, but I just wanted to know the difference between when these users are only physically coming to the office to when they now digitalize their workspace and they have individual computers. However, that the IT guys would have to be present at their system to make sure that they give the solutions to it. And then down to when there is a central system that manages all these users and then computers as is a central identity management solution. Now, but what happens is that if something comes up that maybe there is a blast, right? Maybe there is a blast and then thunder or something, or storm or something, or earthquake or something comes to deal away with this structure, then it means that everything about this organization, all the data they have saved, all the um, um, infrastructure, physical infrastructure they have saved will be all gone. So because of that natural disaster or maybe robbery cases or fire incidences, then this organization now thought of how do we make sure that even if this happens, then we still have what we will not lose anything. So without stressing on the technicality, there is what is called recovery time objective, RTO, and then RPO is recovery point objective. That is talking about recovery of systems that have in one way or the other had an issue. And then you are talking about business continuity and disaster recovery, to be very precise. But those ones are things that we don't need to bother ourselves about. So this organization will now think of, which is the area where we are concentrating on, how to adopt this same process, but this time we want to have our data saved to the cloud. And that's where we are, that's why we are now having the conversation of what cloud computing is. So these guys now at the end of the day resulted to start using a solution that will give them access to cloud resources. So if you look at this organization now, they now come here. So part of what we discussed is the the type of services, but this time around we will be concentrating on you having user account provisioned, and that is all you just have to do. You don't really need to bother about the physical infrastructure in place, even though they can be like hybrid identity and all of which is at this point out of scope for us. But I just wanted to know a situation where this is that traditional office that started off in maybe those 1960 or so. And then as time progresses to the 70s and the 80s, you see them buying individual computers. And then the 2000s, and then you see them coming in with, a system that has a system, I mean, a central system. And then before you know, they're talking about cloud, cloud, cloud. So we announce within here, right? Like what we've explained before, within here, you would find out that there needs to be network between. So if there's going to be like an interaction between a laptop and a laptop, or to share files, or a laptop and the server to share file, what it means is that there must be interconnectivity between these systems, and that is called network. Now, this network are what make things within this organization revolve, right? But if you are coming into doing managing users and account like that or machines in the cloud, the type of the network you need is internet, because again, all network are all internet. I mean, the internet is network, but not all network are internet. So you can have network, but it is not internet. But if you have internet, internet is a global network, right? Internet is a network that flows around the world, while network can just be within your organization like this. Just to have, if you've been to banks before where somebody is on the fifth floor and then is sending document to the ground floor to print, that is network, because there's a network between the fourth floor and the ground floor and the ground floor and the third floor and there, and just to mention, this is network. So if you want to come into the cloud to deliver computing services, then you will need the internet connection. And that is where cloud computing comes to play. Because today we are going to be talking about user provisioning in the cloud. So when you hear the word provisioning, it means something to begin. If you are beginning something. So this is a term that you should be aware of. Provisioning of user, right, is the act of initiating the first existence of that object, right? So I'll just do this now so that we'll have a new. So how do you provision a user in Microsoft 365? Because that is the cloud solution we are going to be concentrating on, even though we know that there are systems that we call the platforms as a service, we know the infrastructure as a service, and there is even other systems that we can talk about, right? But at the point that we are now, we are only focusing on Microsoft 365 as a service that is delivered by Microsoft, and that's strictly on um, the software as a service solution path of Microsoft. So if you have I want to give you like a general definition of what you can come across and what it is that we have in Microsoft 365. Last week, we were dealing on the services, the workloads that we have there, and then we try to expand it. Now, the account that you are currently making use of, the big question is how was it set up? And then from which admin center was it set up? And what is an admin center? Who is an administrator? And then we are going to be today talking about we have an account provisioned. Then we want to ask ourselves, what is the difference between licenses and rules? Because this is something that we need to quickly distinguish. So now, if you have your M365 environment, this is as big as your M365 environment. It covers a lot. So inside of your M365 environment, which is a cloud solution, then you have like a central place for identity management. So this is very important that we speak about the identity management. What is an identity? An identity is an object that is requesting an access to a particular resource. I think that would be like a very layman's definition of what identity can be. Is an object that is requesting access to a resource. An identity can be a user, which is like the commonest type of identity. It can be a machine, like a computer that is joined or registered to the domain. It can even be an application. So when you start hearing the word about service principle, then you see that we can be talking about application having access to something. So don't let us stress on those, but I just wanted to know that the central point where users' identity are checked and verified, that is an identity management solution. So, for example, I was mentioning a scenario where you have like a desktop while in that organization practicing the on-premises system. Now, I mentioned that if the user is trying to sign in and then supplies his email address, there is a central system where there's going to be a check to see that this guy has entered his username. Go and check. Was there a username called this? Then if the username is correct, the system will say it is correct. It will challenge it again for another thing called the password. So the password will come now and check, is this password in correspondence with the username that was supplied? If it is yes, then this computer will open and then the user will have access to work on it. This is just simply users verifying what they have, whether they have access to something, and then it confirming that yes, this user exists. And then the next question is, what about the password? Can you check? And it says yes, the user has this password that matches with this name. And they said, okay, go into the system. The same thing happens in the cloud as well. So in M365 or in Microsoft Cloud Services, there is a central system that verifies those identity of users or machines or applications within your environment. Let's say that this is a user who is trying to get into your system. What happens is that there's going to be like a challenge of request where this user's username will be sent to the central repository to check, do we have a user like this? And if the system says yes, so what happens next is that there's going to be like a feedback session to say yes, this user has access. And this speaks to authentication and authorization, which we are still going to deal with. I know we have dealt with it before, right? So now what's happening is that the first request is going to check, do I have username? The system says yes. This domain is correct. It is at pillarsconcept.com.ng. Fine. Then go and ask James at pillarsconcept.com.ng that he has entered this. Let him also supply his password. And then the system will say, yes, it is correct. And then the next thing that will happen is that he will have his username and then have the correct password. It's just like what's happening here now. Let me show you something really quick. So one of us in this training was trying to sign in and then saying your account or your password is incorrect. If you don't remember your password, reset it now. We'll talk about this all these ones later when we come to self-service password reset. But this person's username was correct when it entered it. This is the authentication method. It brought out to say, okay, the guy is in the person, this account exists in Pillars Concept, but the password that was entered was wrong. So the system will see that no, this thing is wrong. So that is only when this user can have access to resources. Now, apart from coming into the system, I will explain generally what is available and what admin center are these things happening. That's why, first of all, we'll have to speak about admin centers. Now, if you come into the Microsoft 365, there's what is called roles. So now you remember that authentication is to check if you are authentic, and then it gives you access because you are authentic user and you can prove your username. You can also prove your password. You'll be allowed into the system. Now, if you are allowed into the system, if you are an administrator, then what will happen is that we will try to check, are you an administrator? If you are an ordinary user, so when we say administrator here, we are not talking about admin like admin that oversees the affairs of the user. We're talking about the IT administrator. If you are an IT administrator, the system sees you as an IT administrator. Now, what what is, if you're an administrator, does it mean that you have access to everything? The answer is no. It depends on the level of your authorization. So you have lots of admin center. So we know that we have in M365 services, we have the emails. So like we mentioned last week, if we have emails, then we are talking about Exchange. We're talking about Exchange, right? Then if we have Teams, then we are talking about the Teams. So for emails, right, or Exchange, we have Exchange Admin Center. Then we have Teams. We have the Teams Admin Center. Then we have SharePoint. Therefore, we'll have SharePoint Admin Center. And take note that it is from the SharePoint Admin Center that OneDrive is also managed. Because like I was mentioning last week, SharePoint is like for everyone or for people, group of persons, while OneDrive is for an individual. So you also have emails, you have Teams with the SharePoint, you have the you can have the Entra Admin Center. That's very important. So for Entra Admin Center, this is where you carry out identity management. Identity management, that is when you talk about Entra Admin Center. And then you also have like security admin center, or you can hear somebody call it defender admin center. Then apart from that, you can also see something like purview compliance admin center. I'm just showing you this admin center. This will not be all, right? Or may not be all, but I just want to establish something to you today that when this user is authenticated to sign in, then the next level of access is authorization. Now, authorization is a function of what you are supposed to have access to. So if you are an end user who is not in the IT department, and not because you are in IT department that you must be given a role. No, if your role is if you need to have a role which is called the least privilege access should be given to you. So if you want to be managing the emails, let's say the work you are going to be having in the organization is to maintain the emails that are coming in. If there is need for you to troubleshoot email delivery issues, let's say a user can receive email, cannot send email, or a user is receiving mails and then they are going to junk folders, or a user is trying to send email and they are bouncing NDRO and stuff like that. Issues regarding emails or mailbox getting filled up, to carry out purge on mailboxes or try to archive email or do like online auto archiving and something like that. What that means is that, and maybe around calendar related issues in the organization, then if your work relates to that, then you will be authorized to go ahead with that. But remember that you have to authenticate before we are giving you the authority to carry out these. So it's also possible that you are just coming to work in an organization and you do not have any form of need to have access to the admin center. And I mean, funny enough, even if you are the CEO of an organization, so long don't have any reason to have an admin role, you will not be given an admin role, even if you are the CEO, because that is not your technical expertise, right? Except maybe you are like the CTO that we know that yes, you're carrying out an IT functions, then you can be asked to carry out an admin role. Just give me a second. Let me see something. Okay. Okay, so having said that, if you come to the SharePoint administrator, maybe you are dealing about somebody who is into document management, file sharing, So if you are coming to be managing those for users, the rules behind the policies around sharing files with people, creating sites, and working around anything that has to do with document and site management, permissions and stuffs related, then we can be speaking about SharePoint administrator. Then if your work is to create users, license users, and do stuffs relating to users, then you may just be a user administrator. But this admin center here is actually a place where users can be managed, identity can be managed, and then resources can be managed. Resources like machines, you can join them to the Entra Admin Center and manage them from there. But Intune is actually like a very broad system of managing accounts. So, but we'll talk about all of these. Then security admin center. If you are the security, like most of you that I have conversation with, we say, I want to become a cybersecurity expert. So this is the admin center where cybersecurity people are actually working, speaking about the attachments policies, the safe link, and then the anti-malware and all of those coming into the system. Then for Purview Compliance Admin Center is talking about compliance, as the name implies, relating to how you handle your organization in terms of document management, and then policies that have to do with document management. So this is working in line with your SharePoint admin center, and then there's always a handshake between SharePoint and Purview. So we would be diving into all of these. That is if you are creating a user and then you need the user to have access to carry out any of these and others regarding admin role, then you want to create a user that has admin access. Otherwise, you are just creating a user and then you are going ahead to leave that user just like your accounts currently are. Now, having said this, again, one very strong point that we must reference at this stage is licensing. So if you create a user account, and then you want that user to be able to have access to resources like your emails, speaking about um, your emails on Outlook, right? You want them to have access to Teams, to have calls, and then to have chats, and then to be joining meetings and similar, activities, to see their calendars and all of that. Then you want to talk about giving them Teams license. Then there is SharePoint license. If you want them to have access to SharePoint, you want to give them SharePoint license. And then if you want them to have access to even installing the Word, the PowerPoint, the Excel on their desktop with their account, then you need to speak to specific licenses that would allow you to do all of those. Now, while I'm even trying to mention that, we will now be classifying. So for this that we've done now is roles in M365, some roles, some admin centers slash roles. We'll look at roles in detail later in M365. Now, when you speak about licensing, for example, for licensing, you have a lot. To start with, you have apps for business, right? You have apps for business. So this is going to specifically be giving you access to applications, right? And then while you are going into like a when you are going into like a, a broader system that should encompass more applications to you, you may want to start from business basic. So for business licenses, they are for organizations that are below 300 employees, right? So let me correct that spelling. Business basic. Then you have business standard, and then you have business premium. So these are like the applications that you can have under business. Then apart from business, you also have enterprise. So for enterprise, you have M365, E1, you have M365, E3, M365, E5, and then you also have O365, E1, O365, E3, O365, E5. So there is need for you to be able to differentiate between the M365 and O365 licenses, right? So the M365 E licenses or the O365 E licenses are for enterprise organization. That means they are for organizations that are more than 300 workers in the tenant or in that office that you want to assign them to. The M365 is an advanced security system than the O365. So the M365 is a layer of security higher than the Office 365 license. I want us to leave it here that because of extra security layer of the M365, there is a difference between it and the Office 365 e licenses. You may ask question about this, and maybe I will stress it more, but I just want us to leave it here. Now, these are enterprise licenses, and there is a category for education licenses. So if you come to education, you will see the word like, you see the licenses like A1, like you have like A1, then you have like A3, and then you have like A5. I'll just leave it here. I don't want to stress it. A1, A3, and A5. These are licenses that you can have with education plan. So education plan, as the name implies, is for schools, students, and teachers. So there is an extra plan for them. So I would be showing you around these licenses because at least I have access to the business application. I have access to some business licenses. I have access to e-licenses. I think I have E5 license in one of my tenants. I also have the A licenses somewhere. So I will take my time to show you how these licenses are working. But my major point of call for this discussion is for you to be able to distinguish between licensing and roles. Roles give you access to admin centers, while licenses give you access to services. So that you should take away from this conversation. Roles is work, right? Just see roles as work. Okay, work. Then gives you access to admin center. Now, the admin center you have access to depend on what you are employed to do. I'm not sure if that can be overemphasized. So roles will give you access to admin center, which is in line with what you are employed to do. And then you have licensing. The licensing licenses give you access to what? To applications that you have to have access to. I don't mind taking my time to explain this, but before you start speaking about licensing, you start speaking about roles, or you start talking about start talking about licenses or rule, then one thing you must bear in your mind is if you cannot enter into a place, you can't be talking about roles, you can't be talking about access, right? So if you have authority to, if you're authenticated to go into a system, then your level of authorization now depends on what you'll be able to see. And I will leave it there, but I just want to show you around the roles first, and then I will show you around licensing so that it can be very crystal clear to you. So having said a lot with this diagram, we need to leave here so that I can show you something. But we said the central identity management solution is Entra, the Microsoft Entra. Microsoft Entra ID. So you have to take this in mind. So when you have authenticated, then you are licensed, you have access to services. You're authenticated, you are assigned roles, you have access to admin center, which is in line with what you have been given access to, right? And then if that same account is licensed, then you have access to services. Now, mind you, you can be given an account, you have rules, but you don't have license. So what that means is that you are just coming in with that account, you don't have access to services, but you are going to have access to carry out administrative rules in certain administrative center, depend on the role that you were given. And then you can be given an account, you are not given a role, but you are given licenses. So what this means is that you would have access to admin center, right? I mean, you have access to services, but you will not have access to admin centers. So this is one of those like very big things that usually confuse people. And today's class is going to be centered around explaining those differences in licensing and in rules as we speak about Microsoft 365 and user provisioning as our topic of discussion today. So I will minimize my paint and then I will try to what I will try to do is to bring you to, I didn't want to go like very, very fast. So I'll take it very, very easy with us today. So I'll try to go to office.com. I'll try to go to office.com, which is like one of those places that we have access to last week, right? Now, what has happened here is I think I will need to explain authorization and authentication from the beginning. I think I did that last week, right? So I'm in just as we had it last week. Now the point I want us to bring or look at today is so last week we had looked at all these services, and the reason I have access to these services is because I have a license that covers for all of this. Now, having said that, if you now that you've understood licensing, licensing gives you access to applications. So because I have license, then I have access to I can access applications. Now roles gives you access to admin center. Look at it. Roles give you access to admin center. Now because I have role, I have this guy here that is written A and it is indicating admin or administrative center. I'm not going to click on that. I'm going to bring up my incognito browser and then I'm just going to do office.com. I don't know the account that was signed in here, but I will see if I can sign into any account that does not have a role. Okay. I just have to, I think it's so lab at M365. I mean, what's that? Don't worry. Let me just quickly go pick an account, please. So I'll hit on the admin center. This is not where we are now, right? So I'll take you here. I just want to be sure that the account I'm pulling is an account that is correct so that I don't have to go through loops. But what I'm doing now, we are definitely going to do it. So it's just one step ahead of where we are at the moment. So I'm just going to pick my lab rat guy. Yeah. So I'm going to remove license from the guy, but don't bother about what I'm doing now. I'm just trying to let us have like a beginning of something. No, let me take another account that would be that was originally unlicensed so that we don't have conflict. Okay, Pepe. Yeah, so this guy called Pepe, I'm just going to, I don't know if I still remember his password, so I will just give him. Okay, so I'm just going to reset his password. Don't bother about what I just did. I'm just trying to close. I think I have this still open here. So that is Pepe signing in. Supplied his email address. So Pepe is putting in his password and then that works. So he's coming into an environment directly. And then remember, I was talking about admin center. I was talking about rules. So this is the first time that this guy has come into this system, right? And I'm just doing this. Now, if you are on, if I'm looking at this, right? Come on. Good. So if I'm looking at this, I'm actually signed into the same place. It's saying welcome to Copilot, Microsoft 365 Copilot, the same thing. So we're in the same landing page, right? But if I click on these 9 dots and I also click on this place, you will see that I do not have, here I have Outlook, OneDrive, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, OneNote, and so on. But you would understand that this guy does not have any of these services. The reason is because this guy does not have license. One. Secondly, you would find out that I have Copilot, I have Pages, I have Create, I have OneDrive, and at the end of this place, I have the admin center. This guy also does not have that admin icon showing for him. The reason why he does not have this admin icon is because he does not have a role. And the reason why he does not have the license is because he does not have, he does not have the apps is because he does not have a license. I want to believe this is making sense to us. So, having looked at this, I want to resolve one issue. I want to bring this up for the guy, but let him not have access to these applications. Just so you see that we can allow the user have access to the admin center, but he will not have access to the applications. Okay, so now let's look at something real quick. I'm coming to this place. I'm just going to expand this again. And then what I want to do is to come to this place and then don't bother about what I'm doing again. I'm going to show you all of this, how they work. So I'm coming into this user below here and I see roles. So what this means is that we want to give him a role. Now we want to discuss what is role. Role talks about the job that the guy is doing, the IT engagement. What is it doing in the organization? What solution is it providing? Is it working in relating to teams? Is it working in relating to password changes? Is it working in relating to? So depends on what he is doing. And that's because we are distinguishing between roles and licensing. Then we are going to be looking at the rules here. So we are, when we come to demystifying the M365 admin center, we would definitely look at a lot of things regarding these roles one by, these admin centers one by one. And roles is going to be one of those things that we're going to be looking at. However, today I'm just going to have us look at like roles in M365. And mind you, while saying this, I must quickly mention that this is also telling you that these are job roles that you can also embark on as you want to start your career in tech. So what that means is that you can decide to be an AI administrator, and then all you're going to be doing is managing all aspects of Microsoft 365 Copilot and AI related enterprise services in Microsoft 365. So you also have the application administrator, you have the application developer, you have the attack payload author, you have the attack simulation administrator, you have the attributes assignment administrator, and then you have the attribute assignment reader, you have the attribute definition administrator, and so on. But one very major thing I want you to take note of is that you would see that there is a role here, and this role is saying has unlimited access to um, all management feature and most data in all admin centers. What we are trying to say is that if you have this global administrator role, then you have access to everything unlimited in the environment. So if you are giving global administrator access, then what that means is that you can do the work of help desk administrator, you can do the work of hybrid identity administrator, and so on. However, I want us to point out like the major administrative roles in the M365 admin center that are really very common to you as an intending M365 administrator. One is the exchange administrator, right? And then you have very, very important role that must be taken care of with all seriousness and all attention is a global administrator because it has unlimited access. And then we have the help desk administrator. I haven't said that we have some very important ones down below here that speaks to SharePoint administrator, and then you have the security administrator. So there's security operator, and then there's security administrator, and then there is user administrator, and then there is Teams administrator, Teams telephony. There is definitely Teams administrator role that should be listed here. So I'm trying to see why that is hiding. It's not Teams telephony actually. Teams telephony is a smaller arm of the Teams administrative center. But what I'm trying to let you understand is that let's now look at these rules that I've checked out already for us to see. Now, if your work is going to be relating to Exchange, right? You have Exchange admin rule assigned to you. So full access to Exchange Online, create and manage group, manage service requests, and monitor service health. So if your work is going to be centered around all of this, then you may just be giving Exchange administrator at your provisioning. So I just speak the word user provisioning. Provisioning is the beginning, the inception of an object in the cloud. Okay, inception or beginning or at the point of creation or creating a user or an object generally, because it can also be a group or even a device. Then you have the global administrator, like I mentioned, has unlimited access to all admin centers. And one very important thing I must mention to you is that if you want to be the global, if you build an organization and you want to create global administrator, let it be that it is like somebody of high trust, because if anyone gets access to your global administrator account, they can bring down your organization in the next 1 minute. Okay. So Microsoft generally will advise you not to have more than 4 global administrator and not less than 2 global administrator, just because of account recovery issues that we'll be dealing with later. Okay, having said that, we also have here, we have the security administrator who controls organization security, manages security policies, reviews security analysis, and reports and then monitor the threat landscape. So this guy is just like that watchdog in your organization to make sure that everything is safe and secure. Then we have the SharePoint administrator who has the full access to SharePoint Online, manages Microsoft 365 group, manages service requests. Service request is just talking about raising support requests with Microsoft, and then monitor service health. Then we have the user administrator. So what this guy is doing is to reset the password of users, create and manage users and group, including filters and services, service requests, and monitor service health. So because of this topic that we are addressing, which speaks about provisioning of user, we have said that this user administrator is to create and manage users and group. Therefore, our pay-per-click guy, we are going to give him a user administrator role. So how do we give user administrator role to a user? So I'll just uncheck these other ones, right? And just leave only um the user administrator role. So what do I want to do? I want to click on this. You can double click on this from here, right? And then you click on assigned. Okay, but don't worry about how I'm assigning it. Then you can click on this. If you click on this, you can search for Pepe. So if Pepe now comes up on the list, you can click on it and then you click on add. So at this point, what it means is that you have given Pepe the authority to create user in your directory. Okay, so if you've given him um, ability or the go ahead to be able to create user in your environment, then what you want to do is come here. So it's either you sign out and you sign back in as pay-per-click. Remember, pay-per-click has still not been given the licensing, but has been given admin role. Okay. So now what I want to do is to click on Pepe down below here, and then I will sign him out of the system. So if I sign him out, what I want to do again is to sign him back in into office.com, just so he can have the admin icon. But eventually he does not have the admin icon. What I will do is to have him sign into the admin center directly. But let's move on. Let me just click on yes for now. So he's signing into office.com like he did earlier. And then at this point, that admin role that I've given to him is just taking some bit of time to come to stay right here so that we'll have that access. So but what we'll do is we can go to admin.microsoft.com and then sign in with pay-per-click. So if pay-per-click does not have the admin rights, it will not be able to get into this place. Now, because pay-per-click has been given the admin rights, which speaks to user administrator, now he wants to provision a user, because one of the roles that was mentioned is that the user administrator can create and manage user. So that's why the question today, or the topic of conversation today, is how do you create a Microsoft 365 user, or how did I create your user account, right? Because we are talking about user roles, and that's exactly what we want to look at. Him too can come to all these and come to active users, and then when it's here, he will see the list of the users that we have. But this environment is not the pillars concept environment that you have your account, otherwise you would have seen what's here. So now, but even though he has access to come to the admin center, he can give license to people, including himself, but will not be able to see those licenses, those services, if he has not assigned the license to his account. So I just want to click on add. So that name that you sent to me, your first name, I entered it here. Your last name, I entered it here. And then once I finish entering it, it will automatically display the display name. And then username I will just give you a username. And then I will put my domain there. And that is how your account was created. Just as we want to do now. I want to call this guy TMCC. So I want to call him TMCC. So again, when you are creating a user or when you are provisioning a user, you don't you don't necessarily need to give him first name and last name. So it is the display name that is compulsory. Okay. So the display name is the name that is showing now. If you check last week, somebody's name, I think it was Emmanuel. Emmanuel was showing Samuel Emmanuel. So I had to change the display name to become Emmanuel Samuel, and then Mary's name was showing Sunny Mary. I have to change it to Mary Sunny. So the whole essence of what I'm saying is that the what is in display name here is what is showing on the screen. Where you have Joseph Afeso, you have Paul, you have these names here. It is what you type in here that is determining that the display name. Apart from what is displaying here, even in your emails, to when you send out your emails, it is what will be showing. And then when you send out charts, it is what will be showing. Just cut across the whole M365, and even when you are managing the user. So, like in our own case, we use first name dot last name at our domain. So this is just going to be here. So if you have multiple domains, you can have all these, but please don't let this confuse you. We're just trying to talk about. So what I want you to take away from all the conversation we're having today is a difference between license and role. So now, having seen that, I've entered this, all the required, uh, you know, uh, attributes of this user as at this page. So now down below here is saying that, do you want to create password automatically? So that's where I want to leave this one checked. If I don't want to, I can prefer to type in the password, but that's not your own focal point for today. Let me just move on. I don't want to stress anything. So at this point is where you assign product license. So when you want to assign product license, and let's say you are assigning Microsoft 365 E5. This is the E5 I was telling you about, which I'm still going to be stressing on. If I check here, I have 84 applications that are going to be part of the license. So this user is going to have access to 84 applications. Let me uncheck and you'll see that it is 0. If I check it, it's going coming with 84 licenses. If I check the next one, it's just one license. And then if I check the Copilot, it's coming with 84 up to 32. So it means that if I remove this, I will see that it's coming with 8, right? If I add this, so what I'm trying to say is that license gives you access to applications. If you come back to our conversation here, license gives you access to applications. This way I want you to confirm it. That is to say, if I remove this license, product license, applications will be 0. So if I give you one product license that has access to 84 apps, then you are going to have access to them. But I can be giving you access to 84 apps and I say, no, I don't want you to have access to Avatar. You can see it's changing to 83. And I'll remove this one from you also. I can decide to remove some of these applications from you, saying that even though you are going to have the license, yes, but I'm going to also remove some applications for you. So what this is just trying to say is that license is giving access to application. I don't want you to get confused on this again. Why roles is giving you access to administration or admin centers. So I'm going to do, so I expanded it just so we can see what is below. So this is what you have normally, right? So I will click on next. If I click on next, then these are optional settings. So at this point, if you click on this drop down here, that's where you have the job info. This part we are going to deal with like later. So let's just do next. Then one very important thing is that this user is not going to be given. So look at it. The display name of the user is TMCC. Then the email address is tmcc at this.com. The password is going to be auto-generated. Then the product license is the product license is here, M365 E5 without Teams. And then it's going to have these. If you want to edit the profile, we can edit it. And then we can finish adding this account. We jumped something, and that's about rule. And it's not bad if we do that. So if I copy this now, and then this is the temporary password. So for the sake of YouTube, this is a demo account. This is not for a proper user. This, what we are doing is on a lab environment. Thank you. So what I'm just trying to do is I will click on close. And then you see that I can search for TMCC, right? So if I search for TMCC and I come to this place and I see why I could not see roles, but let's look at something. If I come to manage roles now, I cannot give role to user. You do not have permission to save changes. Do you know why? Because I am not a global administrator. All the user admin can do is to create non-user admin users. all all user admin can do is to create non-admin users. So if I come to this other place where this guy is signed in now, and I go to home and I come to active users, so it is possible that the TMCC guy would have been showing up for this guy in this admin center, or I would just refresh the admin center to get that user. Good thing is already showing up here. So if I click on this one now, and then I come to roles. Where is it? I come to roles here. You would see that, look at something. You will see that this warning that is here, that is telling me you do not have permission to save these changes, is not coming on here for me. I can save changes here. You can see save changes is coming up here, but here is not showing up for me. The reason is because the right I have here is a global administrator. I can assign role to users, but this one is a user administrator and is not allowed to assign roles to users. Just so we have a feel of it, what happens if the TMCC guy wants to sign in? I'm just trying to get like a browser where we can like do a test. I'm bringing this incognito again here. So again, that guy is just going to go to office.com.
Sorry,
Office.
sorry. Hello.
Yes, please.
Okay. I was thinking maybe we can make it a bit interactive. This has been for more than an hour now. Maybe you want to ask us how we can probably get the TFCC guy logged in, rather than just to create this flow within the attendees.
Okay, so that's fine. Thank you. But I think I'll prefer the questions to come after the session so we don't have interludes on the recording.
Oh, sure, because of the recommendation.
So let's move on. So the guy is coming in and then is coming in here. I mean, this is admin. I mean, is username, right? It's not the username. Um, I'm not giving this guy this role. I'm just going to leave and I'm copying his email address here. So just mind you, the training here today is not how to create user, please. It's to distinguish between how to distinguish between licensing and roles. And that is the only reason why we are having this conversation today. So don't bother about what we are doing now, about like strictly troubling yourself about the user accounts. So this is the guy's password, and the point I'm trying to raise here is he is not going to have access to any services. Or is he going to have access to services? Yes, based on the licenses that it was given. So we'll now check. If I click on here now, you will see these applications. And this is because if we check this guy's account, we would have that he has this license that gives him access to 84 applications. So if we bring up this account here, I will try to expand this on more apps, then these are the applications that is going to have access to strictly because he has the E5 license. Now, just to continue, we want to discuss strictly on the type of licenses that we have in the M365 admin center. Haven't looked at the rules. And we have seen that the user administrator, for examples, the work is to create users and non-administrative users. That means that they cannot give roles to other users, but they can create users who are non-administrators. And the user that can give roles to other user that we've seen is a global administrator. So I want us to bring up a tenant where I have some bit of other form of licensing. Now I'm just going to pull this one over to this place. And before I click on that, I must be careful not to display any private thing on the screen. Okay. So this is where all your accounts are sitting, right? This is the pillars concepts tenant where you have all the accounts sitting. But what I wanted to show you is to come to licensing and show you, before we go to the web to browse about licensing, I want to come to billing, and then I want to come to your products. So if I come to your products, I'm going to have some licenses here that speaks to, okay, I'm just waiting for that. I don't know why I'm not seeing stuffs there. So if I let me click on licenses. Okay, so you can see here that I have business basic. Now I explained earlier that you have, if you remember this diagram, we have the apps for business, we have business basic. I think I do not have business standard. There is business premium and so on. So what I wanted to look at today is there is business basic, there is business premium, and then I also have Office 365 A1 for faculty. If you remember, I told you that we have A1, A3, A5, and the A licenses are for education plans. So somebody would have said the education would have been E, but E is for enterprise. So A is for academic license. Now, I have given out the two licenses that I have. So what I want us to do today is to look at the, and then if I look at this place, if I look at this place also, just to show you, I have, you can see stuffs around, where's this? Okay, if we come to billing here and then licenses here, you would see something around the E5, right? License here. Okay, so what I want us to first of all do is to look at what are the applications that are available per business basic, right? So if you come to business basic is assigned to these users, including Joseph, including Mary. So if I click on this, for example, and you will see that under the business basic license, turn on apps and services, turn apps and services on or off. So these are the services that come with it, but the way I wanted to show for us is not this way. So I would rather go back to active users and then pick up one of the users, maybe a user with business basic. Business basic, this is Gaius, is with business basic, and then if I come and then I check on licenses, then you will see that it's going to have access to 34 applications because it's on business basic. It will have access to 34 applications. Then if I go check somebody with business premium, this user is in business premium. So if I come to licenses and then I come here, you will see that it has access to 56 applications. So you will see this. And then if you come to academics, I don't know if anybody here has access to the academic license, which is the A license. I can quickly give it to someone so that we can see how it is. So let me give this guy, let me see if I have option. I think I was seeing 2/2 there. If I come to licenses in academics, I don't know if I will have the A here quickly. Yes, you are out of license for this. So, but if I had license, then A1 will give me access to 29 applications, right? To give me access to 29 applications. So what I want to register in your mind is license give rise or access to application, while roles give access to administrative centers. Okay, or to carry out admin roles. Now let's look at license comparison. We can say, remember that we have business and then we have enterprise. So we can say business. So we can say Microsoft 365 business comparison, M365 business license. So let me look at this. It may just be what I'm looking for. So this will tell you how many devices can people install. This is not where exactly I'm looking for. So I'll just say M365 business license comparison. Find the best. I think this should be it or this, one of these two. Yeah, this is it. Now, if you look at business, you have the apps for business, right? The apps for business that I've mentioned here before, just so you see it, all this, you will see that it's giving to you at 8.25 per user every month. And then it's going to give you access to Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, and OneDrive. These are what you have access to. They are both desktop, both web, and then mobile. Now, if you come to business premium, then it's going to give you access to these applications 1, 2, 3, 4, 16, 19 applications. And then if you come to business standard, then you are going to have access to all these applications. And then if you have business basic, then you have this application and you can only access application on the web. Now, if you talk about business, it is for organizations that have below 300 users. There's for home, but of course, we're talking about business all along this core. So there will be no need for us to even go for homes. Then there is enterprise. So we talk about the enterprise, Microsoft 365 enterprise plan, M365 enterprise. So if you come to M365 enterprise plans, then you have the E3, the M365 E3, M365 E5, M365. So I didn't mention something about first line workers, the F licensing. They are not very common, but they are for frontline workers. Then if you come to Office 365, you also have the Microsoft 365 asks for enterprise, no longer business, and is now 12. Office 365 E1, you have E3, and then you have E5, right? And then these are the applications that it will give you access to. Okay, so these are for frontline workers. So the F licensing is what you have here. If this one is going to open for us soon, you have access to the F, which we did not treat because they are not very common licenses. And then you also have the government plans. And then for the non-profit organization, you have F1, F3, which are just very small ones. Then for non-profit organizations as well, they also have their class of licensing, which are that the business, this is free for 300 users. If you are to prove to be like non-profit organization, you can also get up to 300 free license for business basic non-profit staff. So while the business standard is just 3 because it's a non-profit organization, and then but these are not part of the enterprise conversations that we're having. So let's just restrict ourselves to this that we have. So basically, In today's class, what I want you to take home is, if you provision a user, that is, if you create a user, then the license will give the user access to applications. And if you give the user roles, it will give them access to carry out administrative tasks. So we'll be wrapping up at this point. I will be stopping the recording so that we can have conversations that will not make the recording sound too long or noisy, so that it can be refreshing when you go back to look at it. So thank you very much. Okay.